Mandy's gone, so I'll have to thank her later. But I felt so included when she talked about the people that drive in from New Jersey. Yes. Anybody else? Amen. Let's have a club. I've been so focused on the Matthew text and the Jesus storytelling, which is the theme of the month, that I hadn't paid any attention to the other text in the lectionary for this morning. But I got to tell you, I was gripped, as this passage always gripped me. If God is for us, who is against us? And that strong ending. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through God who loved us. This is one of those moments when we need that kind of affirmation, because in all these things, and you know what these things are. I'm probably going to talk about some of them. I kind of can't resist, as you may have noticed. But another time for that text. Are you like me, playing hide and seek with the news? I'm afraid to turn on the television or read a headline or click on a link on some social media site. It's like we're all on The Apprentice, waiting to be fired. It would be funny if it were funny. But it isn't. People's lives are at stake. And while that might always be the case, it was at least possible to think that competent and compassionate people were somewhere involved in important and essential decisions, but no longer. Empty desks, shallow minds, hollow hearts are everywhere where it should count. And at the top, painted yellow hair and a long red tie. It's always, what now? And have we moved at all? 159 years ago, July 9th, I just wanted to say president and have it mean something. President Abraham Lincoln gave his House Divided speech. The speech exposes the naked, behind-the-scenes conspiratorial actions of men, all men, determined to get what they wanted: the unimpeded power to exploit slave labor as the engine for profit from property. Men, women, children, working, driven without pay, beaten and killed when necessary with impunity. And who were these men? They were Supreme Court justices, state and federal. They were senators and congressmen. Gender-inclusive language here would be a lie. They were a president and a candidate for president. They manipulated laws, created new ones when necessary, twisted the meaning of existing case law, misled the public, lied brazenly when it suited them. They wanted every state and territory open to the expansion of slavery. They wanted any master to take a slave anywhere and keep him a slave, and keep a slave woman to be used as he saw fit. And the question Abraham Lincoln asked was, are we going to be slave or free? And he said, we cannot be half slave and half free. We will become all one thing or all the other. And so today, under chillingly similar circumstances, Lincoln would say to us, we cannot be half for all and half for the few. It will be one thing or it will be the other. We are unbalanced between these in the many forms of half for all. The subjects of the news we cringe to watch. So are we for the people of the United States or a foreign power electing our president? Are we for the 13 million or 22 million or 36 million that will lose their health care if any one of these death-bringing Republican bills becomes law? This isn't over. We have Murkowski and Collins and, yes, war hero McCain to thank for this pause. But this isn't over. Are we for transgender people living among us as people, as human beings with all the rights and privileges that the rest of us have? Our Secretary of State said the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission was not speaking for the United States when they supported Donald Zarda, fired from a job expressly because he was gay. It's not okay to be a gay skydiving instructor. Did you know this? Jeff Sessions wants to firmly establish that the 1964 Civil Rights Act emphatically does not protect the LGBTQ and transgender community from workplace discrimination. That is what passes for protecting our Constitution these days. My read is we have often needed protection from the Constitution. After the soaring beginning, we the people, it crashes in the fourth paragraph. Representatives and taxes are apportioned in account. I'm going to whisper this the way the founding fathers did, excluding Indians and 3/5 of all other persons. It's still there. Go read the Constitution. I did Saturday morning. And Mr. Trump, by tweet, bans transgendered persons, human beings, children of God, made in the very image of God, bans them by tweet from military service. President Lincoln has risen from his seat on the Mall and is advancing toward the White House. What century is this? No, let's not make America great again. Lord, do you remember when Obama became president and they took his smartphone away? I'm sorry, I'm being too hard on this fellow. We should make allowances. If he can't write a paragraph, much less a speech, we should let him tweet 140 characters per rant. Well, no, we shouldn't. There should be no slack for this fellow because he doesn't respect us, he doesn't care about us, he doesn't see us like he didn't see the Boy Scouts at the National Jamboree. He didn't see young teenagers gathered to celebrate and learn more about how to serve. And here's a word you won't hear during this term: thrift. He just saw another crowd, another repository for allusions to crude behavior by the idle rich. I went to the Boy Scout Jamboree in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania in 1964. I had just turned 15. It was my first flight. All the troops from my area got together and baked the biggest date cake ever. I didn't know what a date was. Either kind. President Lyndon Johnson spoke on the theme, Strengthen America's Heritage. It was less than a year after the assassination of John Kennedy. He had healing to do, a vision of a great work to repair the broken body of the nation. He had to choose a side for segregation and white Jim Crow or civil rights for all. Could everybody vote or not? Were we going to be one nation or two? The stakes are every bit as high and profound today. And this emperor just keeps parading in his naked ignorance. Poverty, crumbling infrastructure, gun violence, intolerance everywhere around us, saber-rattling, missile-launching, temper tantrum sovereigns, sucking up all the foul air they can inhale. Venezuela, North Korea, Russia. And our not elected by the majority of the people leader doesn't care about us. Doesn't even really care for those supporters, that base to which he only seems to pander. But now don't be confused. We are talking about the kingdom of God here. The reign of God. We don't know for sure what it is, but we can know for ourselves some small part of what it is like. And we can search and reach for it. We can cultivate and nurture it. We can give ourselves over to it. God among us, God beyond us. What comes next? What comes after? What is here and now? Matthew writes, it's like a treasure hidden. It's like a pearl. It's like yeast. I'm going to say in monkey bread. You can't see it, but what a baking experience when it rises, when that aroma fills first the kitchen, then the whole house. Oh my. When you taste that sweetness, Homemade bread might be better than the turkey. I'm already thinking about Thanksgiving. How did you learn what the kingdom of heaven is like for you? What is it that when you see or hear or taste or smell or experience it, you know you found it and it is worth any effort, any price, any sacrifice? Solomon asked for wisdom. He could have asked for a bigger army. Sarah asked if this body was too old. Ruth asked for a friend, a partner for life, somebody to be there, to come with her along the way. Hannah asked for a child. Well, a boy. That might have been a mistake. Our record, fellows, isn't great, but there is still time. In the New Testament, the centurion asked healing for his daughter. Martha asked Jesus, "Can I wash your feet?" Dead Lazarus' sister asked, "Where were you?" Jesus asked to let the cup pass, asked to forgive them, asked, "Do you love me more than everything else?" Asked us to see him in the eyes of the blind, to hear him in the cries of the oppressed, to visit him in the prisons, to welcome him in the refugee, to see him in the brown and black men and women, boys and girls, the white school children, and now, Lord, the Australian woman calling for help, shot and killed, no marriage now, never, ever. I imagine a Washington, D.C. city councilman fed up with gun violence saw the kingdom of God, at least the capital city. Imagine the kingdom of God as a place free of guns. On February 15th, 1975, John Wilson proposed to the D.C. City Council legislation prohibiting the sale, purchase, and possession of handguns. Now that's what gun control really looks like. But we're going backwards 40 years later, meekly hoping we can get background checks. You know, make a call, do a little research before you let somebody walk out with a weapon meant for a battlefield in a war. Wilson said, "People think I want to take everybody's gun away, and they're perfectly right." That's gun control. And may the Second Amendment be buried in the history to which it belongs. Where does it begin, this kingdom business? Matthew suggests looking, seeing, searching, finding. I knew a great man, and he saw me. He saw in me treasure hidden in a field. He said so in a sermon at my ordination, and that's been enough for me. I've been trying to merit his insight, the trust, the affirmation of me ever since. I know he's watching me. Maybe it begins like that, planting a seed, sprinkling some yeast, investing in a person, an idea that can grow and bear the fruit of kindness and compassion and engage life with a fierce and unconditional love that will not let the world go without the blessing of peace born of justice. We've got to see and invest in each other, in the treasures hidden in our fields. The Tower League, gyms, every one of them, still sprinkling our common life with deep humility, aged wisdom, the best kind, warm smiles, and mellow good humor. We've got to see and invest in one another. The kids in our church school and that Freedom School, these wonderful children who grace our building with shouts of joy and curiosity and imagination and open spirits. They are gifts of the present to the future. And this kingdom of God is worth any price, every sacrifice, looking, seeing, searching, finding. Don't miss what is here to see, though it may be small and easily overlooked. Stanley Hauerwas wrote in Resident Aliens, Life in the Christian Colony, "We would like a church that again asserts that God, not nations, rules the world, that the boundaries of God's kingdom transcend those of Caesar, and that the main political task of the church is the formation of people who see clearly the cost of discipleship and are willing to pay the price." Dear Riverside, I think we have yet in this day and this moment to finish the simile. The kingdom of God is like